I have a theory when it comes to this whole light roasted coffee sensation. I never really found it in light roast. And I believe that's the issue with light roast. It's very hard to find a sweetness in the coffee. Is that if you're chasing that, the degree, the complexity, the differences of like trying to really decipher what the acidity is telling you, drink light roast. Able to extract 23, 24, even 25% extractions, which is bizarre because I haven't done that in a long time. We don't have to love everything, but I think it's very important that we challenge ourselves to try to understand it the best way that we can. We live right now. We're doing pretty good right now. We're going to get right into the topic, but let's start it off this way, as they would say, a hook. I really don't do hooks, but whatever. I have a theory when it comes to this whole light roasted coffee sensation. Let's take a sip first. Wow. It's not even perfectly dialed in either. This is the Colombian that I had last year. If you know, you know. If you don't, I couldn't really find sweetness on this coffee. And I tried so many different ways, and I started to get a little bit more as I kept playing around with the coffee and all that stuff. And I never really found it in light roast. And I believe that's the issue with light roast. It's very hard to find a sweetness in the coffee. You get these different elements of complexity and acidity. So many different things going on in your mouth. And as I'm drinking it right now as an espresso, that's exactly what I'm getting. So throughout the whole week, I forced myself to drink light roasted coffees. I went ahead and roasted 5 different variations of light roasted coffees. Not variations, but different types of light roasted coffees. I did it as a pour over, AeroPress, immersion, and I think I tried to do a percolator, but it didn't really work out. Mocha pot turned out really well. But one thing that I was trying to really find and chase is that sweetness. And the reason why I keep saying getting back to the sweetness part is because sweetness adds balance in coffee. I'm not saying it needs to be 50-50, but whenever you actually, let's say, eat a piece of fruit, for a really good example, not all the time, but at times when you really enjoy a piece of fruit, it's because it has some type of balance. It has some type of makeup of acidity and also sweetness. Like, for instance, I tasted many fruits here and there, and sometimes, at least right now, I'm eating some tangerines or clementines, and sometimes they can be hit or miss. And it's one of those things to where I know if it doesn't really taste as good as I would like it, it's because it's missing one of the characteristics of acidity, of sweetness, of whatever that combination may be. Because coffee at the end of the day is fruit, right? It's a liquid fruit. And what we bring out in a coffee sometimes does that. And at times, even though I was trying so many different recipes, I couldn't coax out that sweetness. And the theory that I have going for me right now, at least I'm just thinking about it right now, is that light roast really shines well as an espresso. This coffee's lively. It's tasty. I do get those elements of not sweetness, but the complexity of the acidity. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned about this whole experiment, is that if you're chasing that, the degree, the complexity, the differences of like trying to really decipher what the acidity is telling you, drink light roast. It's not a dig that I'm saying this, but just drink light roast. You'll get all the different complexities, different elements of coffee. And then as you delve into different brewing techniques, you will get different things that come out of the coffee. I do want to bring up another good point. I should get some water to just clean my palate. So I'm going to go do that right now. But the next thing I do want to talk about is extraction. One espresso down. We got 2 more to go. So yes, we are literally drinking 3 espressos out of this whole thing to kind of conclude this whole light roast saga, at least for now. And I did notice that some of the espressos that I was using, or not espressos, the coffees that I was using as it came to actually this whole light roast thing was my Mexican coffee and also my Brazilian coffee. Those presented a more light, delicate type of acidity. It wasn't as pronounced as I would like it to be, but these coffees that I'm drinking right now are the ones that are a little bit more amped up, or I think more so geared towards light roasted coffees. It's my Guatemalan that I had a long time ago. And then Ethiopian, which we're going to be drinking soon. We'll probably do that one last. These are kind of cooled down. The one that I just drank was a Colombian, which seemed a little bit more out there with the type of chemistry of the acidity on the coffee. But the Mexican coffee and also the Brazilian coffees, they presented in a more like delicate type of acidity. Not as something probably somebody will want in a lighted roasted coffee. If you're drinking it black, if you're drinking it like with creamer or whatever, you just want something with the least amount of acidity, especially if you're going to be drinking it with additives and all that stuff. So yeah. But one of the biggest things that kind of got me back to understanding light roast even more so were 2 things. One, of course, is the grind size that I was using out of the old grinder. I didn't use the EK43 at all. I didn't. I could have probably played around with that a little bit. But the cool thing about me using an old grinder was that I know for sure, at least for my pour over methods and techniques, is that I can push it all the way to 4 on the setting on a regular burst set, and it's able to extract coffee. And the cool thing about it is that I was able to extract 23, 24, even 25% extractions, which is bizarre because I haven't done that in a long time. I usually stay in the 19 to 21 ratio. Percentage of extraction. And I think the reason why I do that is because I mainly drink medium roast and dark roast. If you tend to push those coffees even more so than what you should push those coffees at, I'll probably try this theory later on, is that the biggest thing is that it's gonna be over extracted significantly. And then now you're gonna start introducing bitter flavors. And bitter flavors isn't necessarily bad to me. But when it takes over, when it overpowers, and that's all you really taste, you can't really decipher what you're really trying to taste in this, then that's where the problem really comes into play here. In the medium roast and the dark roast, you can get that because the coffee is easier to extract. In a lighter roast, I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's harder to extract, but you can push it. You can beat the crap out of it, and it'll still be presenting something to you to the point to where you're tasting different things, different complexities. And I think that's mainly because of the nature of the light roast. You can push it more because there's flavors that are still there. And for the most part, throughout my whole experience, even by me actually extracting a lot more of the coffees compared to the other normal roast degrees that I normally do, it was amazing. And I haven't dealt with that in such a long time because I don't really do light roast, and I don't tend to go past a certain extraction because of the things that I said earlier. So that was one of the things that was really cool about me kind of coming back to my roots of understanding tasting light roast. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to be drinking a lot of medium roast, a lot of medium roast, a lot of dark roast, just to kind of clean my palate up and kind of really understand balance of sweetness and acidity even more so, because now I've gone through the other extreme of this, of drinking these light roasted coffees. So let's drink this other one. This was a Guatemalan that I'm about to drink right now. It's right here. So let's go ahead and taste it. Yeah, same thing. Intense, different degrees of acidity. It's light, it's tea-like, which I don't really like, but I guess that allows you to really taste a little bit more of the clarity of what you're trying to taste in this different degrees of acidity. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. And the last one is the Ethiopian. But that's my theory. That's my theory. Before we drink this Ethiopian coffee, to kind of conclude everything, is that light roast, I believe, shines in espresso because it makes the coffee. Since you are hopefully enjoying the video, if you like, subscribe. Even more intense. I don't necessarily know if that's really what you're going for. I did find some success in the pour over method, but even to an extent, that was even more intense compared to what I would actually like to drink. One thing that I did realize, especially coming from like the Bonavita dripper or the Clever dripper, if you had that, is that the intensity is dialed down quite a bit in those other methods, the immersion methods. So it's not as intense. So it allows you to actually taste different elements of the coffee. And what I mean by that, it doesn't hit you all at once. That's the thing about when you push the extraction a little too much to an extent, is that it doesn't get cloudy in the lighter roast. It just kind of all comes together. And it's hard for you to like pick which one that's really coming into you, like the flavors. So you'll be able to decipher a little bit more what you're tasting. And I know I haven't really said the actual fruit characteristics, because at times that part is a little too elusive to me, especially drinking lighter roast. Sometimes people will get a little lazy and just say that I just taste acidity, I just taste lemons, and that's it. But there's also a lot of different degrees of acidity. For instance, here's a good example. I think it was yesterday, I had some blueberries. Was it blueberries? No, it was blackberries. And when I had the blackberries, the ones that I actually had, they had a little bit of sweetness, and then on the aftertaste, it tasted more so like a grapefruit type of acidity. And it's easy for me to say grapefruity type of rind, type of acidity. But when we taste and analyze coffee, even more so when we actually drink different fruits or eat different fruits, then we can understand how different fruits probably play a role in our understanding of what we're actually drinking. But in this whole case of me just diving into a lighter roast and drinking it for what it is, it was very hard for me to decipher exactly what I was really tasting. I did get a little bit of sweetness in the Guatemalan to an extent, but most of it was acidity. And I can tell a little bit better in an immersion brew that it came out a little bit more so, or less of, because I wasn't introduced with all these flavors all in my mouth all at once. So if you're trying to really understand coffee a little bit more, I would highly suggest that you start with like an immersion brew, like a Clever dripper, like a even to AeroPress to an extent, because it doesn't hit you all at once. And now you can actually appreciate some of those acidities that do actually come into the cup. But if you want to start intensifying it, we'll start to use like the pour overs, the V60s, April brewers of the world, to really understand that this is what coffee can taste like, which is kind of crazy. But so let's go ahead and drink this last cup of coffee. Or this, I keep saying that, this last coffee for now, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So true. Light roast shines in espresso. It really does. It really puts everything together. It's even more intense, of course, than the pour over, but the way it does it, it makes it more heavy. It makes it more palatable, if that makes any sense. And you're just drinking it in this amount of coffee. And it's interesting because here's the thing about it. I'm not, as you know, a big fan of light roast. I'm not that gear crazy or focused on espresso. But I do understand it. I do understand why things are what they are and what it does to a person to like feel and taste that type of coffee in those type of brewing mechanisms. But it's interesting to kind of go through the whole gamut of different brewers, different techniques, challenging, pushing my palate to understand something that I don't really care about, and to also give you this information of really trying to get to the place to where you can decipher where you really want to go with it. And I think that's the cool thing about this. We don't have to love everything, but I think it's very important that we challenge ourselves to try to understand it the best way that we can. So I am enjoying this Ethiopian espresso. Yeah, but I do wish it was sweeter because to me, there's no real balance in this whole light roasted type of situation. But like I said, I do understand. I do get the allure of the reason why people like espresso or light roasted coffees, but it's still not my cup of tea. And that's perfectly fine. And it's okay for us to be honest and objective with that and to understand the other side of it. And I think that's my biggest takeaway. Understanding why people understand like certain things and the reason why. Even though I was getting frustrated when I was brewing at times, it did give me a different opportunity to push myself to stretch the way that I look at coffee. And at least for now, like roasted sake is done, but it's been great. And I've been loving it. I've been loving the chance to kind of see it for what it is. But again, I can't wait to get back to the medium roast, to the dark roast, and to drinking those coffees and finding the true balance of what it really is when we drink our cup of coffee, whichever way that we do it. So this is a long one. This is what it is. This is how I'm thinking about it right now. So this is Oki at Everyday Beans signing off. Talk to you later. Bye.